When we speak about the different Bigdei Kehuna, the different clothes that were worn by the Kohen Gadol, one of the most fascinating was the beged, in which the names of each one of the Shvatim of Bnei Yisrael was etched in stone that the Kohen Gadol would wear. And when the Kohen Gadol would wear this garment, this object, in the Beit HaMikdash or the Mishkan while doing his service, the Torah tells us that it's l'zikaron l'fnei Hashem. As the Mefarshim explain, it means that Hashem would see the names of the Shvatim and he would remember Am Yisrael and make the connection between the existing Bnei Yisrael, each according to their individual shevet, and ultimately trace it back to their ancestral lineage, to Avraham, to Yitzchak, and Yaakov, so that the zikaron, the remembrance that the Kohen Gadol would affect by bringing the names of Bnei Yisrael etched in stone into the Beit HaMikdash with him, was essentially to create a continuum between himself, Bnei Yisrael, and the Avot in the history of Bnei Yisrael. Now, if we ask most people, where exactly were the names of the Shvatim of Bnei Yisrael etched, which one of the Bigdei Kehuna, most people point to the Choshen, to the breastplate of the Kohen Gadol with the Avnei Shoham and Avnei Miluim and the different colored stones, the tur, the columns of individual stones and their different colors and the different Shvatim and whatever configuration it is that the names of the Shvatim appeared. That's the way most people think of the names of the Shvatim and where they were etched and the zikaron that was affected by bringing those in. However, if you look at the Psukim, the Torah actually tells us that there was another place on the Bigdei Kehuna that the names of Bnei Yisrael appeared. Not only did it appear on the Choshen, on the breastplate of the Kohen Gadol, but also on the shoulders of the ephod. The Torah, just shortly before telling us about the Choshen, the Torah tells us about the ephod, and that in the ephod there was you take 2 Avnei Shoham as opposed to 12, and upon those 2 Avnei Shoham you inscribe the names of Bnei Yisrael. Shisha mishvotam ala even ha'echad, v'shmot ha'shisha hanotarim ala even ha'shenit ketoldotam. 6 names on one stone, 6 names on the other stone, each one framed in gold, musabot mishbetzot zahav. And what happened to those stones? V'samta et shtei ha'avanim al ketvot ha'ephod. Place those 2 stones on the shoulders of the ephod. Avnei zikaron l'bnei Yisrael. These are stones of zikaron, of remembrance for Bnei Yisrael. And Aaron, the Kohen Gadol, v'nasa Aaron et shmotam l'fnei Hashem al shtei kteifav l'zikaron. And again, the Torah emphasizes that Aaron would bear those, would carry those before Hashem when he went to do the avodah. And then after that, actually, the Torah goes on to tell us about the Choshen. So most of us associate the names of Bnei Yisrael with the Choshen, but the Torah tells us that it's not just upon the Choshen that the names of Bnei Yisrael appear, but also upon the stones that held the ephod into place. The names were not just on the Kohen Gadol's breastplate, but they were also on his shoulders. And briefly, but I think poignantly, what the Torah is actually pointing to is 2 forms of avodah, 2 forms of a relationship between the Kohen Gadol and Bnei Yisrael. The Kohen Gadol essentially carried the names of the Shvatim, of the tribes of Bnei Yisrael, on 2 different places on his body. The more famous one is the Choshen, of course, on his chest, which means that the Kohen Gadol always had to have Bnei Yisrael on his heart. He always had to be thinking about them. He always had to be feeling a connection to them. He always had to be davening on their behalf. But just internally, emotionally, thinking about Bnei Yisrael and their needs is not sufficient for a Kohen Gadol, for the person who really is responsible for the spiritual relationship between the Jewish people and God. There's another place on his body that the Kohen Gadol had to carry the names of Bnei Yisrael, and that's on his shoulders as well. Symbolically, the shoulders represent brute force. They represent heavy lifting. What it tells us is that it's not sufficient for the Kohen Gadol to be thinking and feeling Bnei Yisrael, but the Kohen Gadol also had to be actually carrying the weight of Bnei Yisrael on his shoulders, the way someone would carry a heavy object, the way someone would bear something of significance. The Kohen Gadol had to understand that his responsibility for Bnei Yisrael is not just an internal one, and it's not just an abstract one. Again, it's not just something that belongs on his heart, but it's a real, concrete, physical responsibility for Bnei Yisrael. He can't just think about them, he can't just feel them, but he actually has to feel the real serious weight of his responsibility, and therefore the names of Bnei Yisrael had to appear on the shoulders of the Kohen Gadol and not just on his heart. May we all be zocheh to feel a connection to Am Yisrael emotionally, but to also know that we have to do the hard work of connecting with all of our Jewish brothers. We should all have the names of Bnei Yisrael on our hearts, and we should all have the names of Bnei Yisrael on our shoulders. Wishing everyone a Shabbat Shalom.